Hi everyone, I'm Sarah and it's time for Friday Fun Day. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take another walk around my garden, my container garden, and then I'm going to show you how to make a fun windsock that you can add to your garden or anywhere you want to. They're super easy, super fun, and we'll do that right after we take a walk around my container garden. So come along with me and I'll show you what I do. So we'll start over here with my cucumber plant. It's doing really well, vining out nice, and I've already gotten quite a few little cucumbers. Then I have my strawberry plants. I've eaten a lot of strawberries, and now they're working on setting out shoots for more plants. And then of course is my tomato plant. You can see down in there are some red ones, and it's covered in lots of little tomatoes. This is a sweet 100, and I'm going to get lots of tomatoes. Next to that is my jalapeno plant, and I've already been able to make some pico de gallo with some jalapenos. This plant in the corner is my sunflower. It isn't blooming just yet, but it will shortly. And here are some flowers. There's some Shasta daisies, some marigolds. There's more Shasta daisies. And I have a bunch of zinnias and marigolds planted, but my zinnias are taking their time blooming. And then we'll walk down this way. That is my mint. And I use that in tea and in coffee and sometimes just water. Works really good. You just clip off a couple of leaves, rub them together. Those birds are going crazy over there. But you just rub them together and put them in whatever you want to drink. Now this is red and green leaf lettuce. And the center pot is a mixture of kale, spinach, red and green lettuce. I love this one. It's my favorite because I can go and just clip off whatever I want and have a salad. And then I have, of course, just green leaf lettuce. Next to that, I have in that pot some basil and some chives together. This is a marigold and a giant marigold. You can see there's some buds, but they aren't blooming just yet. There's one over there. And then in this corner, let me back up a little bit, I have another sunflower pot. And again, the sunflowers have not bloomed just yet. Now this over here is my zucchini, and you can see I've got a zucchini growing right there. This is a smaller variety of zucchini. Oh, I forgot. Down there I've got my parsley. And then in those two pots, the Lowe's buckets are my hydrangeas that I'm trying to save. They haven't flowered, but they're doing pretty good. Here, of course, are some more flowers, and there's Miss Rosie Bell. She's doing pretty good. She's not 100% better, but she's doing pretty good. All right, now this corner I have yellow squash. You can see down in there, there's a few little baby yellow squashes. And I'm real excited about the zucchini and this yellow squash plant because I love both of those. And then there's another big marigold or giant marigolds at the top there. That one's getting ready to bloom. And then I have this corner. This is my work corner. I do have some zinnias. You can see there's a pink zinnia there getting ready to bloom. I've got some flowers and some more mint over here. And then that one on the top is my cilantro, and I love cilantro. But what I wanted to show you are these buckets over here. This is my compost system. What I do is I only keep my fruits and vegetable scraps, cuttings off my plants and things like that, along with coffee and eggshells, and I mix them together and then put 50% good soil and mix it together. And I switch it from pot to pot. Now, if you just have a small garden like me, you don't need a great big compost system. This particular system will work great. I put it in the one pot, I add the soil, or bucket, these are buckets. Then I put some water in it, and then I switch them back and forth. Make sure that you drill some holes in the bottom of your buckets though, because you want that to be able to drip through, and then you switch it from pot to pot. I have 3 buckets. that I switch it around so that I have good compost. Now, I had a question about decaffeinated coffee. And I want to tell you that I don't use decaffeinated coffee in my compost because there are chemicals in that coffee that they use to remove the caffeine. And I don't want that in my plants. That's just my opinion. And you can do, what works best for you. So the last thing I wanted to show you is that windsock. It's very simple to make. You just need rings, some sort of yarn that you like, any weight, and some fun beads. We've got beads, we've got fun yarn, a little bit of crochet, and a ring to hold it on top. So come with me upstairs to my yarn studio and I will show you how to make that windsock. Hello everyone. I hope you enjoyed walking through my little container garden. You can see it has grown a lot and it's not going to be too long before I get a really good harvest. I'm looking forward to making some pickles and freezing some zucchini and squash and eating some jalapeno peppers. I really love gardening. It's like my second passion to yarn and crochet. And I like to combine the two. And so today I'm going to show you how to make this fun windsock. It's really simple, has a little bit of crochet on the top. And of course you can make this as long as you want. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. But this is what it looks like. It's got beads. I used a chunky number 5 yarn, but you can use any weight you want to. All right, so let's get right to it and make one for you. To make your windsock, the first thing you need is some sort of a ring. Now, these are children's bracelets, and you can purchase these usually in your, what I call the cheap section of the toys, in your department stores and grocery stores or craft stores. You can also find plastic and metal rings as well in your craft stores. All right, this one measures approximately a little less than 3 inches. And this is the size I like to use. Now, if you have some that are a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller, that's totally fine. We just need a ring that's going to support the top of our windsock. And I like these. As a matter of fact, I think I bought these at Walmart a couple years ago during the Easter season, and they were hooked together. There were about 8 or 12, I don't remember how many, and they were like 97 cents. But you can also use metal rings. Another option is when you get a plastic lid on a container, like say a Pringles can, you can cut the inside out and use that outside edge. It doesn't have to be real sturdy, just sturdy enough to hold the yarn, because these are going to go outside, or you can hang them in your windows as well, but it just needs something that's going to hold it. I had suggested using a hairband. The problem with using that is after time, the elastic in the hairband loosens and you lose the stability in the top of your windsock. But like I said, it doesn't have to be this size. It can be a little bigger or a little smaller. And that's the neat thing about this pattern, is it's really versatile. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. But you only need one ring to make this windsock, okay? All right, so I'm going to use this bluish one because I'm going to use some of this leftover red, white, and blue yarn from a previous project. And I have some red, white, and blue stuff in my front yard. This one's going to go in the garden that I made with all the different colors. This is a bulky number 5 yarn. All right, this yarn is a bulky number 6. You can use medium weight number 4, and you can use any colors. Please excuse the band-aid and the nick on my fingers. I wore them out a little bit and wore some blisters when I was pruning my roses. So just ignore that, okay? All right, so you're going to need probably about 3 ounces of yarn because we're going to be adding these long tails. And you can add as many of these as you want to. And it's up to you. Like I said, it's really versatile. And I'm going to do it in this red, white, and blue. This is a bulky 6. It's the London K yarn that I made a couple of other items around 4th of July. And so I thought I'd make me another windsock like this one using this yarn. All right, now I'm going to be using an eye hook, and I know that's a little bit of a small hook for thick yarn, but I want the top of this to cover that ring so that you don't see what color ring I'm using underneath, okay? And the only portion, again, that we're going to be crocheting is this portion here. We're going to single crochet on the ring and then do some open work double crochet chain 1 for a few rows for the top. Everything else is not crocheted. This is put on like fringe. All right, now I've got a couple needles out here because we're going to be adding beads and tying them on, but you want to make sure that you have a needle for weaving in your ends for this portion, but you might need a bigger needle to put your beads on. Okay, and so you want to make sure that that needle can get through the beads that you've chosen. All right, so keep that in mind when grabbing in your needles. And as far as the beads, it's up to you again how many beads you want to add. I have some of these leftover shiny beads in red, white, and blue, and gold and silver, and I'm going to be using some of those on mine. And then, of course, the last thing you need is a good sturdy pair of scissors just to cut a lot of that yarn. All right, so grab a ring, grab your favorite yarn, your eye hook. You might need your tape measure if you're going to measure your strings, and your beads, your needles, and we'll get started. I'm going to start with my blue yarn. You can use any color, any weight, remember. We'll have our slip knot made, put our hook in, and now we're going to single crochet around our ring, and the amount of single crochets is however many you want to add. Go around, grab that loop. There we go. Yarn over and go through both loops. And when we're first starting this, it can be a little bit clumsy. So don't feel bad about that. Just keep going and put as many single crochets as you can fit. And you want to make them nice and tight and close together because you don't want your ring to show through. Now this one's a light blue, and if it shows through a little, I really wouldn't mind. But what if I was using this bright yellow one? That's the only one I had, and I didn't want it to show through. So there is not a set number of single crochets you need to add. You just need to add enough to cover your whole ring all the way around. So as many single crochets as you can fit on your ring. I have stitched as many single crochets as I can fit around, and I also kind of pushed it and squeezed in one more because I want it to be covered nicely. All right, so we're going to go in that first single crochet and stitch a slip stitch. Now we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This chain 4 counts as a double crochet chain 1. We're going to skip the next single crochet and double crochet in the next. And chain 1. Skip the next single crochet and double crochet in the next. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. That's our double crochet. And we'll continue this all the way around. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next. Chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet in the next. And we'll continue this working all the way around our ring. I have repeated that, double crochet, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next, all the way around. And again, depending on how many single crochets you started with, will determine the number of stitches you have. Now, when you come to the end, you may not have a stitch to skip in if you didn't do, enough for that to happen. It's not going to be a problem. Like here, I'm just going to chain 1, and I'm going to join to the 3rd stitch, or the 3rd chain of that stitch with a slip stitch. And then I'm going to slip stitch in the first chain 1 space. Now, I want to save some of this blue so I can use it on the long tails. And so I'm going to cut my blue and bring in my next color. You do not have to do that. On the other one, because it was variegated, I didn't change colors at all. All right? So we're going to go in this chain 1, pull up a loop, and chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now if you didn't change colors, you don't have an extra end to weave in. I did, so I will. All right, so our chain 4 counts as a double crochet, chain 3. So we're going to double crochet in the next chain 1 space. Whoops, missed part of that loop. There we go. And chain 1. Double crochet in the next chain 1 space. And chain 1. And we'll repeat this all the way around this row. Double crochet in the chain 1 space, chain 1, double crochet in the chain 1 space, and chain 1, and repeat all the way around this row. I repeated that, working all the way around. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. We're going to join 1, 2, 3 to the 3rd chain, and then slip stitch in the chain 1 space. And I'm going to change colors again because I want to use all 3 of my colors. And so you can change colors as often as you want to, or you can do it all in one like I did on this one. Because it was a variegated yarn, I didn't do any color changes. That's another way that this pattern is completely versatile. All right, but I want all 3 colors, the red, the white, and the blue, on this one. All right, so I'll go right in that chain 1 space. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, that counts as a double crochet, chain 1, and we're just going to repeat what we did on the last row. Double crochet in the chain 1 space and chain 1. And we'll repeat this, working all the way around. And again, I have repeated double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, stitching in the chain 1 spaces. Now I'm only doing 3 rows. If you want the top portion of your windsock to be longer, you can do as many rows, repeating this row as often as you want to. You could do as many rows as you like. So I'm going to go ahead and slip stitch in the 3rd chain. And now I'm going to tie off. And because I changed colors a few times, I have a little bit of weaving in and tidying up to do. So I'm going to weave this to the inside. Whoops. This yarn is just a little bit splitty. There we go. Alrighty. Now I'm going to take my needle and weave in all these ends, but this is how it should look at this point. And now we're ready to add the long tails of yarn. So the length of the tails of yarn is completely up to you. I'm going to do mine about this long, looks like about 14 inches. And the amount of them is also up to you. You can make it as thick as you want or as thin as you want. I'm going to do 3 strands for each of my colors. All right, so make sure that you have your loop or bend on this side. And I have 3 strands of the blue. And now I'm going to cut 3 of them of the white and 3 of them of the red. Okay? All right, so I have 3 of the red, 3 of the blue, and 3 of the white. And what I'm going to do is we're going to put those strands through the chain 1 spaces. All right, so I'm going to grab the blue one first. We're going to bring our hook from the bottom and then pull that through. Snug it down. And then I'm going to grab a white one. Go to the next chain 1 space and do that again. Then I'll grab the red one. And I may have to cut more of these. That was just where I started. I didn't count how many chain 1 spaces that I have. And the thing is, you don't have to put one in every chain 1 space if you don't want to. You could always do every other. And so I'm going to continue working around with the red, white, and blue all the way around, stitching one of these or attaching one of these in each of the chain 1 spaces. And if you have used a smaller yarn and you have more chain one spaces, you'll have more, and that's where you might want to skip every other one. Again, it's up to you how you want to do it. So I did end up having to cut a few more strands, and then I laid everything out and trimmed it even. And this one's not going to be as long as the other one. I don't want it as long as the other one, and it's up to you how long you want your strands. Now we're going to add the beads. All right, now I've got my needle. I'm just going to grab one of my strands, and then I'll just grab a bead. Now, there are two ways that you can tie this on. You can just randomly place your bead and make a couple knots. Like I usually make 2. If I'm not comfortable that I think it's going to maybe slide off, I might do 3. But that's going to hold, okay? Then I'll grab the next one. And I'm just going to randomly place these on at different places on the strands. I've got a white bead, so I think I'll grab a blue star. All right, and I'm going to put this one down here. But another way you can tie that on if you don't want that to come off is you can tie it this way. Now, it doesn't look as pretty, but if you're worried that it's going to come off, you can use that method. And I do that when I'm using a thinner strand of yarn, but I'm using this nice thick yarn, and so I'm just going to tie 2 knots, and that's going to hold that star in place. And so I'm just going to move along randomly, and I'm not going to put one on every single strand, just randomly place them on the strands at different places. Another thing that you can do is add bells, because that will give it a chiming effect as well, if you want that. I just don't really want that. And you can add more than 1 bead. You can add 2 beads if you want to. Some of them on the long one, some of them I added 2 or 3, just because I wanted it to look pretty. It's, you know, it's up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to push that one a little bit higher. And then I'll just tie those 2 knots. And I'll continue to do this on the strands of my Windsock. All right, I'm just going to keep right on adding beads randomly to all of the strands for my Windsock. So I added a bunch of beads, lots of different colors as far as red, white, blue, silver. I didn't add any gold ones. I just decided not to mix the gold and the silver. But I have stars, I have butterflies, and I have some white ones and blue ones. Just lots of pretty shiny sparkles. And so the last thing I need to do is add the top so that I can hang it. All right. So what we're going to do is you're going to take a piece of yarn, and I'm going to say you're going to need about 14 inches on both sides, and longer if you want the tie to be longer. This is what's going to hold it up at the top. All right, let's move this up, and then I'm going to do, you're going to need 3, and I'm doing 1 in each of the 3 colors since I did red, white, and blue. All right, so here's my white one. So I have a blue, I have a red, and I have a white. And now we're going to place these in 3 different spots on here, okay? So I'm just going to go between the single crochet stitches. I'm going to do like we did with the fringe. I'm going to pull it up like this. Now I'm going to take the beads. And this is the part that's a little bit more hard. It's not hard, but you're going to have to get those beads through both strands. Okay, so I'm going to take a silver one and a red one. There we go. And I'm going to push that down, and then I'm going to take the other strand and go through those same beads. And it might be a little bit snug. There we go. And then we'll just ease those down right there. Okay, so there's one strand. Now I need to do 2 more. We want to make sure that they're centered 3 ways. You can count your stitches over if you want. I basically just eyeball it. All right, so now I'm going to take the red one and do the same thing. Snug that down, grab my needle, and thread those beads on. If your yarn's a little bit thinner, you could probably get away with going through both strands at once. But since I've got this thick yarn, and I did it this way also with the bulky 5, I just found it a little bit easier than trying to fight with both strands. It's a little snug, but it will work. All right, got it through. And now again, I'm going to ease those beads down. And then I'll do that one more time with the white yarn. So I have all 3 of my sets done. That one needs to be straightened a little bit. I want to make sure they're eased down. And the other thing is I only placed 2 beads. You can do several beads there if you want, or maybe a big wooden bead. It's up to you. All right, so now we want to make sure everything's even. And I sort of pick it up and see if it's going to hang right. And then I take all the strands and tie a big knot. And we want to do it about 4 inches down. There we go. And then we're going to tie another knot up here. And this is going to be where we hang it from. And this one's harder. I've got, really thick yarn here. So we just have to kind of take our time, gently ease that in there. There we go. Make sure we got all the strands of yarn. And I missed one right here. There we go. Now I'll have to come back and fix that one because it's a little bit loopy. But this portion right here is where we're going to hang our windsock. All right, I'm going to fix this and get right back to you. All right, I just untied that and retied it. It's nice and secure now. And the last thing you need to do is just trim that off. All right, and so now you have a beautiful windsock that's going to have all those beautiful beads on it and move in the air. And the nice thing that happens with a windsock made of yarn is those strands of yarn start to untwist, and it just makes it really pretty and fuzzy, and I love the way that it looks. All right, now I'm going to go hang this in the front yard. I'll take a picture of it so you can see how it looks. Isn't this pretty? I think it turned out beautiful. I can't wait to hang it up in my front yard. Now, what I want to tell you lastly, first of all, thanks for spending Friday Fun Day with me. And second of all, next Friday, we're going to learn how to take an old t-shirt and make it into yarn. And I've got a really easy way to show you where you don't have to tie a bunch of knots. So tune in next Friday to make tarn or t-shirt yarn. And all you need is some old t-shirts and a good pair of scissors. See you next Friday for Friday Fun Day. Bye-bye now.